there were a few questions like how does solution manager functionalities compare with cloud and what is there, what is not there. So this is a SAP support page where SAP specifically mentions what is there, what is not there. Like the all the functionalities which are there in solution manager, and it's either corresponding functionality is there. If it's there, what is this? And if it's not there, is there any alternative or something in that, right? So like if you know, most of you have worked in solution manager, right? So requirement management was there in solution manager, same. So we have it in cloud ALM, in the requirement manager where we create the requirements and everything, right? Then in solution manager also you could create project like through project manager, you could create project, build project, child projects, main project, master project, right? And the same thing you have under project and task management. So the same functionality is there, and with some name conventions in, right? Process management, the full process management is there, but documentation is there with documents, and process authoring is nothing, like you can create your own custom processes. If you see, process management can be extended with full SAP Signavio Process Manager. So if you have the SAP Signavio Process Manager, so right now I don't. The last I had updated, they are going to integrate the SAP Signavio Process Manager within the cloud homepage itself. Right? There will be a tile. We had one of seminars where they showed the lab where they had it. So they told it will probably be integrated, but its costing and how it would be, like whether it would be available similar to other areas with free of cost, or there will be some additional cost or something, or you need to have an additional license something. So that we don't know. But if with the manager you can have the complete or process management, but if it's not there, then you have documentation, process authoring, and the process scoping, which we have gone through. Right? Custom code management, again, it's getting replaced by custom code clustering, but again it is planned. It is not there currently, and the plan, and they don't even have a planned date when they're going to bring it. So again, custom code management helps you with keeping your custom code, as the name says, in good quality, or you can run quality checks, you can run decommissioning options, whether if any code hasn't been used for a long time. You basically to reduce the footprint of your custom code on the system, right? To reduce the database size, and these usually happens when you're going to an upgrade and update. So before that, you can leverage custom code management to see what all codes you can have become obsolete or haven't been used, or it has quality checks as well, which you can run and see how you can optimize the custom code so that you reduce your footprint, and you go into the upgrade with smaller footprint, smaller database size, smaller size of the system, right? So this is planned. This is not yet available. You see, there is no custom code cluster. They'll be calling it custom code clustering, not management. And we don't know what all will be there. Like if all whatever was there in custom code management and solution manager, would everything will be there. So, but some variation of it be there, right? Test suite, again, in solution manager, you have an extensive solution test suite management where you could start for manual automatic testing, starting from a planning, creation, and managing defects, everything. The same is more or less it's covered in solution in cloud LM through test management and defect management, right? So in solution manager, if you remember, you could create defects as well, right? Similar how we can do it in cloud LM. So there is not much of a difference. The only right now not a shortcoming is that it doesn't support automatic testing on its own, but it gives you the option of test process, which is it's like it's pre-integrated into cloud. To onboard Tricentis is just a one click. You just, again, I think you have to have a the last I heard that they are going to give it like as part of the enterprise contract, that agreement. But I'm not sure whether you again have to request for that separately or not. But yeah, you have that automatic testing capability, but via third party tool which they have integrated, which is fully integrated with cloud, right? So you don't have to do any additional effort from in integrating a configuration perspective. It's a one click integration. You just have to, once you have access, you can request and it will, and that's it. Like the integration happens. Like it's a one click. I can say it's a one click configuration, right? Then we have change control management. which most of you would have worked in most cases, the change management, RFC, change documents. So this is that's functionality supported by change in emblem and release management and deployment orchestration, which we'll go through. Feature which we will pay is part of that change in implement, change and deployment management, change in implement, release management and deployment already. So with change management, you could also plan your releases, right? Like if you have a go live of you go for UAT or for your regression testing, mock run, right? So that you could do with change management. Same thing with you can do in Cloud ALM through your release management and deployment orchestration, right? So we'll go through that in detail. Test management and change. Test management, change element are the main to cover mostly in our next session, and that's why we have kept the maximum time for these sessions. Okay. A quality gate management was again, as I had mentioned, like you could in your projects, you could have, you could have waves, sprints, and then for each wave or each release, you could have a kind of a milestone, which you can call quality gate, where you could have prerequisites that, okay, this quality is like a, gate quality, like we pass this quality gate only if these set of prerequisites or these set of preconditions have been fulfilled. It could be, again, it could be, whether development isn't on time, requirements have been completed, whatever it could be, right? So you could create queries. So same thing you can do project and task management, right? In the project, you can create your milestones. You can create tasks, subtasks depending on it, right? So it could be, and they are also the functionality to come. Right now, you can, like in project, you can do milestone, but you probably can't put conditions, right? So that will come later. You can see it, not actual quality, but comparable functionality is planned in the project task management. But again, there's no timeline as such. Okay, IT service management, as said, it's not in scope. Okay, can be provided by third-party ITSM. So like for service now, they give an inbuilt integrations, and for other also they give an external API you can use, integrate, create your extension, and you can work with other third-party ITSM tools as well. Right, not only service now. For service now, they give inbuilt integration, if you could say that, and like it also has for MS Teams, right? So that is one thing. Focus Bill, some of you might have worked on, like Focus Bill was an add-on and solution manager, which was like again specifically for implementation projects running on agile way of working, right? So it was a plug and play tool where you could it did sit on the solution manager system itself and was an add-on, a plugin, but it was mostly suited for implementation projects. That's it, not for any run or maintenance support. It's only for implementation project. Again, starting from your prepare, explore, realize, deployment, run phase. It would cover all your phases. Sorry, except run phase. Till hypercare, it would support you. So it had like it again had its own release management, change management. So the focus build was more of a role based. Lately, it had like a project manager, test manager. It's how we have in cloud, right? So there are the various capable, like the focus build we had release management or requirement management. So same thing is covered by different this requirement management, the top in cloud. So that's why it has mentioned various capabilities. But again, it is the whole whatever was covered by focus build as a plug and play solution is not still in cloud LM. So they are planning to bring some of those features. But what all features are there? They have just mentioned that it is going to be planned. But what is actually going to come into the cloud LM, we'll come to know that later, right? Because if you must have understood it by now that what we are going through is like SAP Cloud, no, for implementation. So it is anyways covering the implementation, but right. When they brought focus build, they brought focus specifically for implementation because by then solution manager had become, like across everything. It was you can manage your obviously for implementation project, for your run project, for your upgrade project, for your migration projects. Plus it had different functionalities, and right, for system monitoring, for your data volume management, CCLM, right? So they just brought focus solution, which was focus build, focus insights, and focus run, like as an odd add-on. Like focus insights is for dashboards, right? So focus build they brought is specifically for implementation, where the like build to start time was very quick. Like you didn't need to put too much effort or time to start your project with focus build. With solution manager, it was like you have to install it, build it, configure it, everything. But focus build was an add-on of focus on solution manager, so you don't have to build it or install it. You just have to have the add-on installed through Saint or Spam, and then you can start using it instantly. There is no requirement of customization or any configuration if you want to go with the standard. And anyways, Focus will did not provide you much scope for customization because it was meant to be as a plug and play tool with very less, very quick turnaround time, right? You don't have to, because that was one of the feedbacks from customers that if I have to use solution manager, they to start from scratch, and it takes a lot of time by the time can start or start managing my project through solution manager. So they brought Focus back. So again, some of those functionalities probably will be brought into Cloud ALM, but what we will come to know in the future, right? Okay. Can be extended with full try and test. So this I missed. So if you see tested, so there is a separate license required, right? For try and test. And even for choke, then you need a separate license for even taking out your process manager. Okay. So it doesn't come free basically. It could come free that depending on your enterprise contract, you can negotiate the guy. Please include Signavio and Tricentis as well, right? With all other products, right? Since Cloud ALM is free, but you include these two as well as like free or as discounted, that you can do. But yeah, they will have separate license. Cloud ALM doesn't have a separate license. It comes as part of your SAP enterprise contract agreement, right? Yeah, right. Operations we won't cover. So this is fine. Any question here? Anything? I just wanted to give an overview that how it compares with solution management and cloud. Okay, you take it.
No.
Yeah, thanks.
So change management will take later, right? No, I said change management will take later, right?
We'll start we'll start with change management has 2-3 features, like 2-3 items. So we'll start with like feature is the main. So we'll start with feature, and then next week we'll again continue. So yeah. Like if in solution manager, if you have worked, like there are different, like you have RFCs, you have change documents, you have to create the solutions and those things, right? So similarly, it's there. Okay, give me 1 second. Yeah, okay, sorry, I think I got confused with the numbering. Module 7, yeah. So this is an overview of the, from a process perspective, how the cloud LFM implementation works. Yes, switched. Yeah, you start with your tenant request. Like the first thing you will start as then design. So design we have covered, right? Consume best practice content, like you can consume it through your roadmaps, right? So how do you consume? So you consume the best practice content through roadmaps, right? You have roadmaps. So it is inbuilt. You just have to select whether, again, it's optional whether you want to consume the best practice content or not, right? Then once that is done, then you can perform it to standard workshops like design. This we have covered. Once you're using the best SAP best practice content, so then you have the the processes, the diagrams, everything. So you can run your fit to standard workshops with the customer during the design phase, taking help of those in processes which SAP, or you can create your own, as we have covered that it. You can create your own processes, and again, it all depends on you how or the project how you want to run the workshop. Usually, in a project, or at least work stream wise, you have a plan that how you are going to run workshops. If there are people on site at the client locations, then they are going to run the workshops and they are going to give the inputs to the offshore team. Or if it's like the client is at on site and the team whole is at offshore, so you have calls, right? So then you set a template, right? Which probably would vary from team to team, or at least for project, right? But that should be set, because why I'm saying that, if you set the same process, so you can follow the same and have the same thing, expectations set at the project management level. And how do you work with cloud ALM, right? You could I think there was a question that who creates the requirements, right, when we are doing these workshops, right? So ideally, or in general sense, if you think that, so when as SI partners we go to run the workshop, so we ideally should create the requirements, which again would get approved by the customer, and then we start work on that, right? You can have multiple iteration, because first workshop you have, or first meeting you're not going to get the requirement finalized. Like there would be because that's why we say it, right? Fit to standard, fit to gap requirement, right? So you can have multiple iterations. So the requirement would also undergo multiple iterations. Another scenario is that nowadays a few trend has emerged in the sense that, and it is especially for non-core core companies who don't have who have always relied on SI partners for their implementation or for their support, for managing their IT support. But now since they are transforming to S4 HANA, they are onboarding, maybe external consultants, but they are building their own, at least one layer of, IT business owners, right? Where they are also external consultants, but from the client side. So in some cases, I've seen in projects where these are the ones, they are also not the business owners. Like they're in between the SI partner and the business, but they're from the client side and they create the requirements. And so that is also one scenario which you can go through. But in either scenario, it would be you as SI partners who are going to create the requirements and manage the workshop, manage the requirement. So that is design phase. So whatever we have been talking right now, obviously project was prepare phase, but we have been design or explore phase where running your, how do you run your work, requirements, project tasks, users to all these help you in your explore in your design phase, right? Once your design phase is completed or your all the requirements are in place, again it could be hard log that way every requirement for the whole complete project has to be completed by so and so that date. Or it could be happen that you could have work stream wise deadlines. Like there could be, depending on the scope, there could be one module which has limited processes as part of its scoping, right? So obviously its requirement and workshop would get finished quickly, right? Or due to some resourcing issue for some stream or module, the resource did not onboard on the team, right? On time. So their explorer design phase is still running. So it depends how do you want to have it. Obviously, it will be decided when you start the project. But ideally, ideally, you should have a hard log, but not a hard log, probably a soft log, but to make sure that, okay, everything gets completed within that time. But if anything overlaps, right, like as we, 20% backlog is something which you can work with, right? Not more than that. So that you can decide on the project, right? So now then next is like the actual build phase where you are going, where we talk about this change deployment and features is going to help us, and we'll go through that, right? So perform configuration activities and manage extensions. So configuration activities is your the development from based on requirement. And now since and another big piece of not development but big piece in this build nowadays is the integration of your multiple cloud solutions with your the different, right? You any project or any customer you go, they're using whole lot of the cloud solution, SAP Concur, Asset Manager, Ariba, SuccessFactors, Ariba, all the modules, all the modules, C4C, extensively people are using. So this piece has become a very big piece. The development is one thing, but integrating everything through your S4 HANA will be the main, your S4 HANA to all these integrations. But plus you'll have third party systems. Plus nowadays BTP has come into the picture where people are, or customers want to build their own extensions, right? Applications. So this piece has also become, so earlier like maybe 2 years back when we talked about build was mainly about here development work, right? User stories, you get the development work created, test and everything. Right now it even the integration part as part of that build, right? How the applications have integrated, configured, you test whether the integration is working fine or not, apart from the actual development work. Plus with BTP people are creating extensions, trying to run new things. So these are also now part of the build phase. So when we have to plan, we have to make sure that it could be that you are running there's a development piece and as for HANA, you do it, but the whole process is like end to end where S4 HANA is going to integrate with your Ariba or your SuccessFactors, Concur, Express, anything, right? So that I'm saying this because you have to take that whole end to end process into consideration when you are giving an estimate and when you're even going for your workshops and requirements, right? So sometimes we tend to miss that okay, there's an integration piece which is there, which is not in your hand, right? You probably will rely on your your integration team, the CPI team, the Ariba team, right? If you are develop or even if you are functional, for your end-to-end process, you will rely on your develop ABAP team, your CPI integration team, and your Ariba team. So have to have all of them come together and piece this together right now. So that consideration you have to be sure, which is not easy. Means it's not, I'm not saying it is difficult, but it's just that we don't have much experience with those things, right? It's very new. Like there are very like you could have like till now you would have worked like all ECC like we have been working. So we have seen all these scenarios, everything we know, right? But with S4HANA, yes, earlier it was S4HANA migration. Okay, so how do you migrate? That is also done. How do you upgrade? Is it now with BTP and this all cloud solution, everything moving to cloud? We have this another piece integration. And another important piece in this, which will be part of your build, which you should consider, is the security aspect, right? So because you're using cloud solution, so you have to means I'm saying all of this because this is going to take some of your effort, right? Not your effort in particular, but you in planning you have to take those efforts in consideration. Plus, you'll have to work with the security. And security would not only be your the SAP security team, right? Like since BTP, you have an IAM administrator. And with cloud, you might have an Azure. You are going on Azure, so there will be an Azure administrator who will be taking care of the Azure security or AWS, whatever, right? So in 90% scenarios, you will be working with these, right? SAP Cloud, the hyperscalers, and different. So all of this you have to take consideration. Even if you are not responsible, you have to take consideration. Okay, this is going to take some time, so we have to plan like this. Or this piece is going to take not 7 days, but maybe probably 3 weeks because we have these pieces, right? The security, we have to request the hyperscaler or with Rise with SAP. Again, SAP also comes into the picture, right? Where you don't have much access, you just create requests, and so every piece you have to take into consideration. Because I have seen projects, especially with Rise with SAP. Like earlier, what was like you had your own basis team, your own technical team, you had your own servers. On servers in the sense the same team, the same SI partner, or it was so you could send them mail, okay, this is not working, that is not working, my development system, send them a mail. But now if you have to do that, you don't send a mail, you raise a SR, service request to SAP. I'm taking example of Rise with SAP because going forward, I think almost all the projects, at least will in some form or the other, would be Rise with SAP, some flavor of it. There is no, there is no escaping of that. Like you, some way or the other, there will be Rise with SAP contract. And so then it is with SAP. So you raise, even if you have to request for access or you have to request an integration probably your integration team is going to do, but they won't have access to the system, all this access. So they have to request it to the SAP team, and the request is not through mails. You have to create a service request, and again, a service request have a lead time. It is not like like how are we used to work in progress, right? The same team, the same project. There's a security team, development team, ABAP team, server team. Every team is right. You send them a mail, probably they'll do it. They'll do it in 1 day or 2 days. Security, I need access. Okay, I'm failing, or when I'm doing, you would have seen in solution manager when you're trying to a very simple example when you're done with development, you're trying to move your change document or transport to quality of facing issues. So when you see it is a authorization issue, or you can ask your solution manager team to check on it. So they will instantly check. Instantly, they say they'll maybe take a 1 day or 2 day to revert back, but that is the maximum time, right? Or if it is an authorization issue, or you need access to run your testing in quality. You haven't developed, but you don't have in quality. You need an enhanced access level in quality to run the test. So that you can request you can write a mail, create a ticket, they'll do it. But that won't work now with at least with Rise with SAP project, because it is with SAP. You have to create an SR. They will take it's there in the contract. SR has, depending on the type of SR, it could be 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, or 14 days. Right. To give you an example, to renew a certificate in development, because when you are integrating with third-party systems or cloud solutions, there will be interchange of certificates. So that for authentication, right, for smooth SSO, right. So certificates, if I'm not wrong, has a lead time of 7 days, or 14 days. I'm not, but it is like it is. I think it is 7 days or 14 days. I don't remember correctly, but it is for sure means minimum 7 days. So it's like if you come to know, like it could be right. There is a you need a you are testing something. You need another tenant to have onboarded, and you want to know have the integration. So you need to replace in the certificates. For that you will rely because you won't have access or your team won't have access to the these means you'll have access, but you won't have access to upload or configure certificates. So you will raise a ticket of SR with SAP, and they will take 7 days to come back. Means obviously they can come back early, but they never come back early. It is always if there is 7 days, they're going to come back on 6 or 7 days. So then you are sitting on that piece for 6 days because you can't work, right? So that's why we have to plan it very. Obviously, you can't plan for everything, right? It is next to impossible, but as much as possible. So that's why I'm thinking whenever you are in design phase, make sure you just check of all the all the pieces, right now there are so many pieces, right? Earlier it was there was no BTP, there were no cloud solution like 2 years 1 year back, right? With BTP and with and the problem not a problem, but the thing is that they are every day they are giving so many options, so many services out of BTP, which you don't have to configure. You can just use that service and have that end process in place, right? And customers love it, right? Like they want, because obviously if SAP is saying them, they want to go with it, right? So as SI partners, as integration partners, we have to be sure, we have to at least we have to take that into consideration, that and we have to let customer know that okay, this piece is not with us, like the integration. I'm responsible to getting it done, but I'm actually not, I can't do it because it's the configuration access or that piece is with SAP. That is not part of my means I'm not actionable. I can't action on that, right? So there will be a lead time, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 14 days, depending on how it is. So that time frame or that time you should take it into consideration, considering all of this, right? The security aspect, the integration, right? So I came because you have to manage the extension as well, right? So once your build phase is completed, like your build, and again, just to again build only, not build is not only now, at least in current situation, is not only build like as functional. You give your FSD to your the development team, they create the TSDs, you sign off, and then they do the development. Probably in very rare cases, this would comprise your build. Build would probably comprise FSD, TSD, configuration documents, your cloud solution, your security, your the how do how do you integrating your extensions, BTP extension of BTP services, BTP business services, or the different cloud solution integration with your main S/4HANA system or any other stuff, or multiple integrations. So everything you have to take consideration. That all of these aspects are now is the build phase, right? So in planning or in the design phase only you have to take into consideration, and you should have sufficient buffer time when you're planning.
Hey, ZaranTech now offers SAP corporate training. That's right. Train your workforce in SAP with our comprehensive program. We offer customized courses, certified trainers, and hands-on labs for both individuals and businesses. Our standout features: bespoke training, fully configured servers for practice, in-house materials, and a dedicated LMS. Plus, get session recordings and 24/7 support. From functional to technical modules, we have got it all. Choose ZaranTech for SAP training and watch your team excel. Learn, upskill, succeed with ZaranTech.
For your build phase, because it is it is multi teams, and it is across organizations. So you have worked on multiple projects. When it becomes cross organization, there is a delay, right? So just take that into consideration. So after build, you obviously you'll do with the testing. So Cloud ALM, you can support all kind of integration testing, acceptance testing, your UIT, SIT, whichever you want. Manually is as in build, it's there. Means it's a test management is still in a very good space if we compare with other functionalities within Cloud ALM. For automatic testing, you have to rely on dry scientists. We already discussed that. After that, once your testing is done, for the deployment, you can again rely on Cloud ALM. They have you can orchestrate, like we go through that in detail. So you can orchestrate the deployment, the plan, deployment, and after
Also,
then you can go with your business go live. So this complete cycle, we the implementation covers, right? After go live for hypercare and operations, you run support. You have the SAP Cloud ALM for operations section that goes section that we won't cover. So few things is like all of these, everything at every level, you will have analytics. As I've mentioned this earlier, SAP has put a lot of focus on this analytics traceability of each thing. Like from a task, you could go, okay, which feature is there from the obviously from the high level, you can go to the lower, like from project, you can come to requirement. You're scoping in this scope, how many requirements are there, requirement, how many tasks, user stories from there. But it also gives you traceability from like, let's from a requirement. Okay, this requirements of which process, this requirement, okay, how many user stories or from task or test cases. So it gives analytics traceability at all levels. Like if you want to see at any level, more or less, it will tell you. Like it's like you want to see the project status from the task level. Like okay, there are 128 tasks in the system. What is happening? Right? Or you want to see okay from a requirement level. Okay, there are 98 requirements. Okay, what is the like? So this feature or view SAP has tried to give you that if someone wants to see okay from test cases, like, let's suppose the test you want to say okay, how many test cases are there in total and what, like, there are 498 test cases and 238 have been. So you get a view, okay, so we are around 50%. So it give you can view or have analytics at each and every level of the different pieces of this the implementation cycle, right? So it gives you that view, traceability analytics at each and every level, okay, which we have covered a little bit. Like you can have create your own views, right? If I want to see and just want to see, okay, how many requirements are still in realization phase. So okay, then I have to work on the requirement. Right? When you are in design phase, you are only bothered about the requirements. You there won't be any user stories or there won't be test cases to worry about, right? Because that will come later. So you can have that, right? So that traceability or analytics that gives you Cloud ALM gives you that option. Okay. Okay. Any question? Anything here? So this we have already covered. Fast onboarding. So the onboarding is very fast, right? Project synchronized with cloud solution. One aspect is like, let's suppose you are using any of the cloud solution, right? So all the cloud solutions from SAP have their own like update release timeline, right? Like for ECC, we had like every year they will update, give a one case update or one patch update, right? So all the cloud solutions have their own release timelines. Like I think now it's 2 months for the cloud solutions. But it's like I'm just taking example. Let's suppose it's 6 months, 3 months, and different projects have different release cycle. Like every 3 months there will be a new version of patch, whatever. So though that release cycle you can integrate in Cloud ALM because it is going to come automatically, right? Because the cloud product when you have that as part of roadmap or as part of a scoping, so that you
also,
can synchronize your project planning. Like let's suppose there is a you are in your success factor implementation, right? And okay, there is a like maybe mid of May, there is a patch update or release planned for success factor. SAP will do it, right? They're not going to wait for you, they're not going to stop it, right? It's like over like worldwide, right? Broadly, right? So then you can plan accordingly, or you can okay that okay, we need maybe some testing after that as well, whether I've work till now is doesn't get impacted by the update or the release, right? So then you can plan your project accordingly that you can place a test
also,
cycle or a test task there just after the release. Or you can plan your build like, okay, no, we won't build before that. Like we'll extend it, we'll wait for otherwise, if we build something and after the release it breaks, there is no point in that, right? I mean, obviously, probably it is not going to break 99%, but just even SAP says once after an update, you should check your, configuration. So maybe you can plan that, okay, we'll do it after the release, after SAP releases the latest. So you can synchronize that because it will come automatically in Cloud ALM when you're adding those systems as part of your system groups. And when if you remember, we were creating release, right? Deployment plan is nothing but a mix of your system groups, which systems are part of your scope, plus the releases, right? What? So you can at that time only you can have it, right? Obviously, except S4 HANA on-prem, all others will have these releases, right? The SAP solution, the release time, right? So then, and you can see it very easily in the you have that, I think they call it on the SAP for me. You can see the all your cloud subscriptions, the cloud availability, there you can see it. So then you can integrate it in your deployment plan, so that you don't come later. You don't have to, again, it could be right. It could be that it overlaps. Like you are in middle of your testing and middle of your development, and then the release happens, and you don't have any say in, right? SAP is going to release that patch, so and it will get automatically deployed. Then you won't have any in case something breaks. So it's better to plan around that release timeline of that your particular cloud solution. This is specifically for cloud solution, no, not for the on-prem anything, right? Again, this we have already mentioned. Manage implementation automatically generated and to customer scope. As soon as you have the roadmaps, so all the automatically task not get created but get populated in your project, right? If you want to use them, you can use them. Obviously, you can use them. It's better to use them. I was showing it, right? There were some questions. So you can create a subtask from them, or from that task, you can create a user story, a project task, right? That, okay, I don't want to make it is becoming too cumbersome. That, okay, the roadmap, those are called roadmap tasks, which come with the roadmap. Those are called roadmap tasks. Okay, no, again, I'll have to manage the roadmap task also, then my own user stories and project tasks. So you could do that you can just take a reference of your project task. Sorry, your roadmap tab. There may be 296, like 296 project tasks. So whichever you want or whichever you think is relevant for you, you can create a subsequent project task or user story for it. Right? If you like in prepare phase, you're going to create project task. User story doesn't make much of sense there, right? And then probably in realize phase, you can create for those tasks which are there in realize phase. Your roadmap tasks also get bifurcated depending on the phases. Prepare phase, explore phase, realize, right? Deploy phase, right? So again, on your requirement, how is your requirement? You may choose not to go with roadmap tasks, but take that reference and create your own project task and use this tool, but based on the roadmap task, which gives you a guideline or or a box within which, okay, these are the tasks I can do, okay, which are relevant to me, okay, these are relevant to me, so I'll create projects. So that you can do, right? So it gives you that automatically generated, and and it adaptive to your customer scope, right? It is the customers, you can adapt it to customer scope, right? Whatever is your scope, you can adapt. It's not like, I have to use all the, I don't have to use it, I don't have to, you have 296, you can use maybe 96 only, right? So it is adaptive to your scope, right? Whatever is your scope as your customer scope, you can do that, right? Visualization, we have already talked, with one workshop, right? Again, that is again optional, right? It's not like we have to go with, but it is always like when we go for any meeting, we always go with a presentation, right? It becomes only talk, probably becomes boring or no. So if you put some, figures, some images, some text, color film, so it becomes a bit interesting, or people, or so similarly, if you go with your text plus diagram, right, it becomes easier to, at least show them the flow, right? It could be that some business processes have, across multiple sub processes and then becomes tedious, but then it is again in any complex scenario, it is always easier, or understand the flow through the diagram. So in Cloud ALM, you can create your own process diagrams, process flows, or you can leverage Signavio. But obviously, you would need, you would need a separate license for that, right? So either you can use Cloud ALM, or you can buy, or you could have already have a Signavio 10, right? So you can just create those diagrams there, and you can upload it in Cloud ALM. So that leverage is there, that option is there, that you can, or any other tool also. Like it should follow BPMN convention and should be a per type SV, either BPMN or SVG, and then any other tool, any tool it will work. But it has to follow that BPMN, business modeling process notification notions, or whatever, BPMN. So that it has to follow, and then you can use that in your processes, and you can run your process, and it helps in later also. Like even when you have to come back, okay, what was the project? It's always easier to come and see the diagram, right? Or you have moved out, or someone else has come, or the project is done with the implementation. Now it is getting handed over the run team. So run team has not worked on the implementation. They don't know the flow. Right? So obviously they know the flow, but they don't know they don't want the intricacies or the details, minor details, which who has built, who has worked from the workshop level till the realization phase, right? So and probably might not be there in the project to help them in case there is an issue during run phase. So obviously they can come back and see the diagram. Okay, how this is. Again, all of these works if it is maintained, or we follow the process correctly, that we have followed the correct, we have the correct. It's not like we were using the standard process. There was some customization we did. We noted down in a requirement. We created a requirement, but we did not change the diagram. So then it doesn't make sense, right? If you are again, if you don't want, you can like have a. We are not going to put emphasis on diagrams. We'll just have our maybe initial we'll have, and then we'll put in requirement FSD other, because FSD they will also have. You can put diagrams, and then that will refer. We won't refer to the process value flow or the process flow. Right? That also is fine, but it has to be consistent, right? It could never be someone is doing, someone is not doing, someone is doing half-hearted, someone is doing okay. Right? Then the project itself won't be a success, right? If it is not there. And I mentioned this, I think, in one of our projects. It was for North American industrial products company. One of their in SOW, one of their timelines, no, the in SOW you have payment milestones. So one of those payment, and it was very near to the end of the project. Like it was like 31st May, the project is going to end, and we were sitting with customer in 1st of May, and he was an ex SAP guy. So he mentioned that we have specifically mentioned that we want modeling for all processes which are in the scope, and no one had worked on it, because obviously when they started, even the customer was, they did not know there, and there was very less customers. It was more all standard. So that was a payment milestone, that all the processes business which are part of the scope and which will be delivered, the process diagram is part of the deliverable. So and he that guy was very rigid. So it was like in 1 month, which should have been done 1.5 years back, and it should have been done by the complete team. It was like people had to be onboarded just to create diagrams, because there was no other way, right? So each functional team has sat with those people. There was a team of 3 or 4 people, and since we have a solution manager and obviously diagrams you have in solution manager, it is not as enhanced as it is in Cloud ALM. The modeling tool, it is there, it's good, but it is very not difficult, but it is very cumbersome. Like it takes a lot of time to create one simple flow you can create, but an integrated multi-level across subprocess is very difficult to create in solution. So specifically few members were onboarded just to create all the process, and I think there are 190 193 or 198 business processes. And then for all those, obviously they would be like they're overlapping for some that you can use, but they had to create more than 100 business processes in 1 month, which is very difficult. Right? It's not easy. Like because see, for me, let's suppose as functional people, it's you have to create, let's suppose 10, and you have time, and the flow, right? So you can create. You just have to understand one time, okay, how to create, right? After that you can create, because the main thing is the flow. Okay, from here, which step this is, which step this is there. But for someone who's new, not new in the sense, not new to the process, he or she doesn't understand. It's all gibberish for him or her. They have to be told with function. So there were 2 people sitting in this trying to make it. So in that way, it just has to be defined at how the expectation has to be set, that whether you are going to go with the modeling visualization or not. Right? Again, it's a good to have, but it's not a must to have thing, right? If there are projects you can run without modeling, there's no need of that, but it is good to have, right? Again, manual and testing, we have integrated, automated testing, we have already mentioned, reporting capabilities are already there. So at different level, we have reporting capabilities. So these we have covered, like onboarding and project, user roles, teams. So you onboard users, you can go with the standard roles which SAP provides, or you can create your own roles for your project. Teams, you can go with SAP standard, or you can create your own teams and onboard users, right? Time boxing you can do, right? You can create your phases, you can have your custom phases, you can have your milestones, you can have your sprints. So you have different options for time boxing, right? And time boxing, like these are like time boxes, right? Sprint is a time box, wave is a time box, milestones are time box, right? So you can create, you can like in phase also, in prepare phase also within. If you want to have waves, like in prepare also, you can have wave one, at least in realization phase, you can have wave one, wave two, wave three. That time boxing you can, and then waves. It could be that wave one has 4 sprints, wave two has only 2 sprints. That also you can do it. Time boxing as per your requirement to better, deliver the project. SAP Activate and best practice content is already available as part of the roadmap. You have to use it or don't have to use it, optional, right? Then you do the process scoping. Okay, what business scenarios would be part of the project? Plus, within those scenarios, what are scope business processes, or they call it like solution processes, will be part of the scoping. So you do the during the onboarding process scoping, which all business processes will be part of the whole project. Then design. Once you have the scoping done, then you see the process where custom process modeling, process documentation, requirements collection. Process documentation is still like not fully there. Like requirement collection, we have discussed, like you run your workshop, then create your requirement, everything. You can create your own custom process, like process review. Then you go to project management, right? Where I think I have told you, let me expand this. So project management, agile suppose like we have you like you can it supports your agile methodology, the cloud ALM project management. So you can tag management. I think I have told you, like you can create your own tags, right? Like tag is nothing but the hashtag we use, right? You tweet something, you can use a hashtag again, and all the tweets from that hashtag will show. Similar in the same sense, you have tag one. You can create your own tag, right? It could be in anything, like okay, obviously you can have requirements assigned to a team, but if you want, like let's suppose these requirements would be of wave one, so you can create a tag wave one, and you can keep assign those tag to those requirements. So you can again comes to analytics and traceability, where you have tagged them, the tag, you can just filter it. Okay, how many requirements are supposed to be completed within wave one as part of the build. So you have. Otherwise, how we are going to find out, right? Because either you can find it with the requirement status, or so it could be that you have all the requirements, but all the requirements are supposed to be start working on the same day, right? The development team is not so big that they can start work on the whole requirement. So you have to bifurcate which requirement will go first, which will take time, which will take less time, more time, right? And it has to be for all modules, right? It could not be that okay, only for you're doing for only finance or only for MI, right? All for all. So you have to the case in wave one or in sprint one for each module. So you can create tags. So it is easier to find out, or you do the traceability. Okay, I want to see how many requirements were supposed to be built or worked upon during the build phase wave one, sprint one. So you can create tag wave one, sprint one, and you can tag it to that requirement. So tags helps in that way, or in other way, or in test cases, right? You want test cases which needs manual intervention, or you need enhanced access level when you will eventually run it for, or there are test cases which you jump from one system to another system, right? So you can tag that a test case where it would be the testing, the whole process, business, the whole end-to-end process has to be tested in multiple system, like in S4, then in the another integrated system, right? So like that you can tag. So tags are nothing but in your as we use it in Twitter, Facebook, and hashtag, same similar fashion, so that you can like filter out, okay, from this tag, okay, what is there, right? So you can use grand chat view. I've shown you, like for each of the most of the there's a grand chat view where you can do the linkage. That I'll show you. Linkage in a sense, let's suppose there are 4 or 5 tasks, right? But one task is onboarding of the team. So let's suppose you need, so obviously onboarding of team is prerequisite, right, to start development. So you can have a relation that okay, task 2 is interdependent to task 1, and then as task 1 is completed, it won't task 2 you cannot start. It just give you understanding overview that how the flow is, because in a project you might not know, you get assigned a user story, but you might not know when to start, how to start. So in that way you can create that, but it's again very optional if you want to do that. But I'll show you grand chat view. You can see for everything, right? So that is project management. So requirement refinement during build, obviously you can do requirement refinement. Configuration again is like as I was saying, like obviously it is not only the development, but you are going to configure it. Obviously, you have to configure something in the S/4HANA system, or in Ariba, where you need to have from the basis team, the technical team. So that is also to be done during the build phase. So that also you have to take into consideration. And considering it, there are multiple, the hyperscaler, the SAP with Rise and all cloud solution for SAP public cloud, hyperscaler, public cloud, private cloud. So you have to take everything into consideration that where all the configuration has to be done and who will be doing it. So that will come. Okay, extension management is nothing but in BTP, you people are now customers are now wanting to create extensions of their own applications, web based, whatever, right? So that is there, but still it is like Cloud ALM doesn't fully support that extension management. It is probably come or may not come, right? Similarly, integration management, like again, your systems will be, if you remember in project, when we were creating a project, when we were creating, assigning the roadmaps, there was an option to integration scenario, right, which was graded, right? So there are integration scenarios also, right? Like S/4HANA is going to integrate with your S4 SuccessFactors or Ariba. So the standard integration scenarios, SAP is planning to bring them in Cloud ALM again as a SAP best practice, right? Again, that is not fully supported, but integration again, as I said, is a very important piece now of the whole any project, because now earlier it was like all earlier what was the integration between system? You create RFCs, right, within your ECC system, your BW system, HCM, HRM, SCM system, whatever, right? You create RFCs, you have Java system, you create data suppliers, JCO destinations, and that's it. And maybe there are some few third party no third party products you are using, right? Datria, VoicePick, Trillium, something like Trillium also. So that means Thomas Writer for taxation. So those were like those again, they were RFC, like it was so inbuilt, like they were so integrated with SAP that was a very small integration, right? And you would use PIP, PO system for integration, any third party system, right? So it was all very, there were few cases of few requirement of integration, right? But now it has changed considerably, considering so many cloud solutions have come into the picture. Right. You have so many cloud solutions now, and I know, means you must know, this probably. Most of the SAP is giving free, right? It is actually free, like because it is like subscription based, right? They are saying you use it. If you don't like it, you leave it. We'll give you like free for first year, right? That is how they like for Rise with SAP, they are saying that if you go, they are giving a discount of as much as 40 to 60% of your licensing cost. Like earlier, if they were charging $1,000 for 1 year, they are telling they will charge you only $40,000, and that $60,000 also we are giving as free credits that you can use for your other services, right? Clean code and other different services or application, because everything, right? You have data sphere now, right? So people are very interested in data sphere, so you can have that subscription, right? So there are so many integrations happening when you have SAC and data sphere now, almost the same thing, right? So but they keep on changing the name every year, and customer thinks that okay, something new has come up, right? So SAP data sphere is there. You have you have HANA on cloud now, right? You have different, so many things are there, right? Somehow or the other, SAP has been able to at least sell everything to customer. Even if they're not using it, they at least will try it, right? Whether it will, but they're trying to make sure that if an SAP customer moves everything from non-SAP stuffs to their SAP. Because with cloud, SAP is also able to provide those. Earlier, they were not able to provide all the functionalities or the which third party to, but now with cloud they are able to provide it, right? They have built, and now BTP they're saying, okay, if we are not able to, you create your own and you use it, it will set on BTP, right? So that integration part is a very big piece now, very complete build. So we have to take that into consideration.
What sets ZaranTech apart in SAP corporate training? It's our unique blend of expertise and innovation. We offer customized courses tailored to each client's needs, ensuring relevant, targeted learning. Our vast trainer database brings you wisdom from the best in the field. Need resources? Access our extensive training material repository anytime. We are all about measurable results. providing detailed student metrics to track progress. And we don't just teach, we build community. Join our thriving social media network, connecting learners beyond boundaries. With ZaranTech, you are not just training, you are transforming your SAP expertise.
When we are building it. And once built is done, then you have test orchestration where you have test planning, test preparation. Again, SAP standard test cases are available, which you can leverage. With the roadmaps, the test cases comes right. So you can use the standard test cases for standard scenarios, standard process. So it gives you with even the steps, you don't have to make it. You just have to, like if you want, you can just start using those test cases as it is without any further work on configuration on them, right? So you can create SAP standard test cases. You can use them, or you create your own test cases, right? Depends. So you have manual testing, which is fully integrated within Cloud ALM. You have defect management, as I said, like they don't have ITSM, but for testing they have defect management where you can, if any testing fails, you can create defect and manage the whole life cycle of the defect, right? And you can have also defect map back to the feature or the transport when the whole cycle comes into the picture. It provides Tricentis Tosca as a already integrated. Plus, it also provides you can integrate different test automation providers, right? HPLM, Microfocus. It gives an external API for test, which you can use to integrate the different third-party test automation providers. Okay, so that integration of test automation providers, you can use it. It gives you external API. You can build extension and you can use any. I think probably it covers more or less. With the external API, you can integrate any of the test automation. Means Focus, Microfocus, HPLM, you can integrate. Then it's change documentation recording, traceability not read. So when we'll go with change the documentation, so it provides how it was in solution manager end to end. From the change realization where you create the RFC request for change, it gives CAB approvals. Almost everything similar is covered through change enablement. You have time recording, you have documentations. Again, documentation was not there earlier. Documents, now they have created, it is there in Cloud ALM where within a new app called Documents where you can do your, save your documentation, documents, save, and then it has traceability and audit trail. So audit trail is for, again, you can check the history of each and every change happening in your system and the Cloud ALM from a feature perspective or transport perspective, how the transports move, where was the results, all you can see. Traceability is there, where if a feature is there, in what state is there, if a feature has a corresponding test case, where it is. So all complete traceability is there in change enablement. So deployment, again, you have deployment planning, feature delivery, deployment confirmation. So feature delivery is nothing but the movement of your transpose through feature delivery. So you can change, as we do it in solution manager, you change through the change document, your transfers would move, right? From dev, quality, pre-prod, prod. For your testing, you want to move it to quality system, but to a different client, right? So that anything you can do. So same thing, it covers your deployment planning, your deployment confirmation. Once it is confirmed, your status will also change. You can confirm it. Okay, my change is into production, so it is confirmed. Deployment is confirmed, and you have for that you have development orchestration, and finally the business go live. So the implementation part only supports till the business go live. Hypercare and operations. It's hypercare and operations. It doesn't have as operations. It has a separate section where hypercare doesn't have access, but you can obviously use the Cloud ALM itself. At least because in hypercare there could be some issues or changes which you couldn't use again features to deploy those changes, right? So yes, and see, this is the end-to-end implementation flow. So whatever we have talked about it till now you see it would make sense to you, right? Because the first step, you have template task, project task. Template task is nothing but you can the roadmap task, right? So you can have template task, project task as a step one, right? That you select your process context, right? What processes are part of solution scenarios, business process, part of your project scoping, right? Your project, right? Then you create the requirement for that project scope. Then you have approval for that requirement, right? So this would complete your second set, right? So from process context, you create requirement. In between, you'll have your workshops, and then you have your approval for the requirement, right? As a third step from these, you will create your from the requirement, you're going to create your user stories. You will create your plan, how many user stories you want in what sprints, right? So that will come as step 3, right? User stories creation. We have seen how do you create the user stories from your requirement, right? Then user stories, again, user stories could have subtasks, or from the requirements you can create project tasks as well, right? So depending how you want to do it. From the user stories, you can create subtasks for user stories, like user stories could have subtasks, right? Like one for access to security, one for integration, one for the action development, right? So a user story, if it's for a complete end-to-end piece, could have different subtasks or sub activities. So you can create different subtasks to, so that, because if you remember, when we create subtasks, it shows you the percentage completion based on the subtask, how many are there for that user story. So in that way, you can track that how much percent of the user story is completed, right? Then you can process the user story and complete your user story. You work on the user story and you complete it, right? And then obviously, if your user story has your subtask, so obviously you are going to complete. And then as all the subtasks are completed, your user story doesn't get completed, right? So then it becomes interactive, and you can have it check, okay, how much percentage is done and how much is not done, right? So this is the third level. So this we have covered. The fourth activity, the fourth level is where you create the feature like where you are going to the user story will have a feature where the transport will be there, where the similar to what we had in solution manager change document, right? RFC, you could say RFC as such is not there, but probably change document would be a more familiar comparison with feature, right? You create a change document and you have transfer within change the status of your change document, and depending on that, your transports move, right? Depending whether you're in development, you're testing, you want to move to the next phase. So similarly, you create a feature, you can create transports directly. Change document also, you could create transport directly, or you could assign transports already created and assign to that change. Similarly, in feature, you create a feature which probably would be linked to a user story for development. And within create a feature, you can create a transport, or you could have created a transport already in transport system in the development system, and you can assign that transport to the feature. Again, like in solution and change document have that concept of TOCs, right? It's like you create a transport when you release, you change a TOC gets created and TOC gets moved to the next phase or next system, not the original transport. So this helps in, like, obviously, because even the development will go through multiple iterations, so there could be multiple changes to your requirement, to your development, right? So it's just that to have only one single transport for one requirement or one change document. Otherwise, if there was no TOC, then every time you would be creating a new transport, so it would be difficult to manage, right? So that's why TOCs are there. And TOCs have a life cycle only till like quality pre-product. They don't, so they could only be moved till pre-product quality, depending on your, ideally only till quality. It could be moved, like if you are like, you move the TOC quality, there is some testing failure, then you can again you could move back the change document again to in development. Then you could again work again when you change the status, again a new TOC gets generated, and always the update, always the latest TOC gets moved to the next system. Similarly, here also we have TOC concept. It was not there earlier, like till last year it was not there. Even transport creation was not there. You could only assign transport, like you had to create a development system. But last year, around mid of last year, they incorporated that concept that, okay, you can, like, from feature itself, you can create the transport in the development system. And later on, again, and when they brought in that transport, they only got transport. There was no TOC. They could not like work with it. But now you also have TOC's concept. But it came very recently. So similarly, if you compare with solution manager change document, so more or less they're following the same process where you have change document within that transport and TOCs. Similarly, here also feature is there, transport TOCs, and again transport will be moved based on the status of the feature. So obviously there are not as many features as their status as there was in change document, but right now they are like in development and ready for testing, and they are ready for import into production. Like there are 3 or 4 statuses only which you can play around with feature, but probably in near future it could be that they would probably will incorporate few more statuses, because these 4 statuses doesn't suffice the requirement, right? because there could be different requirements. You are running different testing. You could have a pre-pod system, you could have a four system landscape, and then that doesn't help, right? So, you create the feature, you assign transport, and then your deployment quality. So this covers the fourth fourth level of activity, right? The fifth is for the testing purpose, right? So when it is deployed to quality, it means that it is ready for, required that test, it is ready for testing. So you do the testing. Okay. So you can, create, assign AT, test cases. Okay. So you can create either it's the standard test case, or you could create your own test cases. You could have test cases for SAT, for UAT, for regression, whatever is your requirement. You can create and assign the test cases to obviously you could assign the test cases to the feature so that you have a relation. Also, there was one at the top, if you see create project task, like there could be some tasks which don't require, I don't know how to put it, like printer setup, right? So you have to set up and you have to document as well. So you can create project tasks for that, because not people probably won't go through, user story cycle. It's not development. So, but you want to test that printer, whether it is working, you'll be moving that printer from dev to quality. You can do the testing. So you need a test case for that as well. So that also you can. So like you can set for admin changes or general changes. You can have like printer setup or some configuration, right? Basic configuration which you want to test. So that you can create projectors. You can have user stories, test cases assigned to the projectors, and you can test that. So that becomes part of your testing as well. And you have document proof that, okay, the printer, taking example, printer, you have set up right from development. So that, to take an example, so that option is also right. And obviously, when you are doing the testing, there will be, when you execute, there could be issues. So you fall back on defect management, right? Cloud ALM has inbuilt defect management specifically for testing, but they don't have any other ITSM functionalities. But for test management, they did incorporate defect, because that is an important feature, right? Defects is very important feature in the whole application lifecycle, because testing is very important, and it is imperative that you have some mechanism to manage the testing results. If it's a failure, you should have defects. Obviously, then you can again map those defects back to a feature, right? And then again, the developer needs to work again the whole cycle well. And so that's where defect is there. You can create defects directly from the test cases. There's a failure, you can create defect, and again you can again work on the features or feature part, and then again work, and then again go to testing. So this whole complete cycle is there, right? And finally, when the testing defect is completed, final is testing. That means the requirement for which the development has been, you can confirm it, and then the feature, the transfer is ready for deployment. So you can change the status to ready for import, and then you can deploy it to production based on your release management strategy, deployment strategy, right? So where Cloud ALM again will help you as a feature which will help you in release management, deployment management. You can. So this is the overall, like from a task wise purpose, what all function we do it, right? Okay, so this is fine. This we have already gone through. Okay, so there are some new features. I would say one new feature is the release notes document supplements documentation. If you remember, when we were I'll show you the from process. If you remember, we could create requirement or notes. If you remember, so notes are nothing but, again, it was not there earlier, this feature. You could say it has an additional helping tool, like we have tags, right? Tag management, right? Similarly, notes is like something when you're doing workshops or you're working on something and you want to note down something which probably would not, you don't want to create another, it doesn't, like, you can't create everything. You can't have, everything incorporated in a requirement or a user story project, but something, a note, like something you want to make a note of. So then you can have a note which would again link to your requirement or your process, right? It just, you right click and create a note. Similar how you would, usually we set with either we create notes in a laptop, sticky note, then it's difficult to find it. How you don't remember where you have kept, and you don't know how to find it out, right? But here SAP gives you that cloud link is okay. We know that probably when you're doing, you might, and notes for your own self, right? Okay, so you can create a note which will be available within that requirement, which in your, so you don't have to look anywhere. So whenever you come to that process or requirement, you can just see, okay, there's a note. Okay, what notes? It could be anything that check. It could be like whatever, like you take a notepad and a pen during your workshops, you have a diary, you maintain the notes for your own reference. So that you can use this. This is a new feature along with the documentation, right? So there is no updated last meeting, like this is nothing. So fine, this is fine. So we have last time. I'll just show you the Cloud ALM. Any questions till now? Okay. So Cloud ALM for implementations. So this was the notes which I was saying. So this you can use as it's a bit slow to do.
So Ratan, it's an only an handout kind of stuff, right? Only for noting down something. It doesn't not, we cannot assign it to an requirement or anything like that.
No. No. It's just for noting down. You can create your own notes, or you can like I'll show you
Okay.
like when you're running your workshops, for that process you can create a note there itself, like something of a helping tool, not something in there. It's just that like you are going to make notes and you're going to put it in Excel or in your mail or in a notepad or in sticky notes or notepad, right? And probably you might not, because when you do the requirement, probably if you do it in January, probably the implementation for that requirement is going to happen in probably March, April, May, or that cycle is completely testing and eventually that's a whole life cycle of around bare minimum 6 to 9 months, right? So you could miss some things. You could wanted to make a note of it during deployment, have to make something or the other which comes during the discussion with the customers, right? So you can make a note of it. Just you can, it's like a helping tool.
Okay.
So is it slow for you or also, or it's only me?
You're talking about calm.
You can. Yeah, it's not openings. You can. So you have made, we have made updates since you were last year. Click here to find out more. You click here, something or the other comes. I'll show you from processes.
For me, it's open, not overview, right?
Yeah. It opened for you. Okay.
I'll be able to.
Okay.
What is the overview of this note section?
Okay, so this is so if I select any of the processors, so you see I can create a requirement from it and this note. So note could be anything, and like whatever you want to note down, right? Something important. You can give tags to it, right? Tag anything. So the relationship is with respect to the. So it's just like a additional feature if you want to have, which everything you can't put in requirement. Right? Something you want to, maybe something specific you want to do during testing, right? For this requirement, there has to be a specific testing is. Maybe you can note it down there, right?
Asking about what is the use of note overview?
Sorry, what?
Note overview.
Notes you're saying. This.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, whatever notes you have created, you can see here, or you can create your own notes, right? I'm saying like, it makes more sense, or it is more helpful, like when it is connected to like when you are creating, like when you are doing workshops or anything, or in a meeting, you create notes, right? So if I create a note, I might miss it. Like what relation it would be difficult for me to find it later on, right? So here, I was giving example that you can create, like let's suppose for a process or a requirement, you can create a note there and that relation will be there. So you can know that, okay, for this solution process, okay, I have a requirement, okay, there is a note also. Okay, let me open what I had written like 3 months back. It could be, right? Because
it is just like our quick reference, which we can use for us, right? It's
right, active. Yeah. It could be like, during requirement, you came to know, okay, this requirement during testing where requires a specific testing. Maybe you probably would not put it down in requirement or user story, but you have to put it down somewhere. So you put it down, okay, testing needs to be done this so and so, testing needs to be done by business or something, right? Something test mocked.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you can give it a scope, like my scope tags you can, if you have created test case. So now I can filter it out with test case also, like shell case requirement that business testing, something on the line, right? You save it again, you can reference, give a link, or it could be that you have taken screenshots or some reference from the old screen, right? What changes, but you don't want to put it in the requirement because requirements we might send to the customer for approval, right? So you can put that down in the reference. I upload it somewhere and give the reference here. So this is only for your active channel, right? In that sense, right? In that sense, you can use notes. Okay. It's
meant for individual tasks regularly, if anything wanted to do.
It is like it's you can think of it as simple as your notepad.
Okay.
How you want to use it, right? So this is the feature. Okay. So feature you can create from requirement or you can create directly, right? And this is the directories. If I go to requirements, so here you can assign the feature, right, which you can create. So you can have that relation, right? So then you have like requirement would obviously have a feature, right? The development piece, right? So for that you can here like we assign a user story and project task, right?
What do you mean by the concept here in the the features? No concept. What is that
It's
actually means?
it's similar to your change document and your change management. The container or the the for your transports, if you could say. What is change document? It helps you. It has transports basically, right? And you can depending on the status of your development work, you keep changing change status, change document status. Change document again gets created only when you have a you create a request for change first. If it gets approved, then you create a change document depending on whether it's an urgent change or a normal change, right? And
Concept.
then that change document gets created. It has different features, right? It has transports within it. And when you change in development, you're doing development. Once the development is done, you change the status of that change document to, I know, move to quality or in testing, depending how you have the statuses in here. Similarly, here feature is the same is like
Okay.
almost same similar functionality. Obviously, doesn't have the complete flow with change document at like email
This
notification.
is a compulsory to link with change requirement, right?
It is
So should
not.
be linked.
Obviously, you should link it, but it is not like compulsory. There is no compulsory feature that has to be linked to a requirement. It's all like optional. But obviously, you should, because if there's a requirement, right, it means that there's some development piece. So for development piece, you need the feature. Only then your development will be mapped, tracked, and it will like you have your transports, right? You have user stories, right? So you can assign user stories, right? Because project requirements will have user stories will have feature. Ideally, this is the relation, right? So you can obviously like a requirement can have one user story and one feature. So you can that feature should be assigned to that user story, and also that user feature should assign to your requirement as well. So this is one is to one relation. You can have one is to n relation also where a user story. Ideally, one user story should have one feature only, but it could be that a requirement could have multiple user stories, right? Then multiple user stories could have multiple transports or multiple features, right? In that sense. So you can have that one is to n relationship. Okay. So it is same as how we have. Sorry, same. It is very similar in how we have change document RFC in within change management and solution manager. We have feature in Cloud ALM. Same, it has transports. Obviously, it has more like traceability feature. Like you have user storage in Charm. Change manager, you do it in an Excel, right? You also break down the requirements in user stories, right? And then user stories, different users you assign to different people, different developers. Then for each development, each change, you create a transport, you create a change document for each development work. So this mapping of this relation you have to maintain in Excel that okay, this piece requirement or this development has this user story. This user story was assigned to, and he's working through this change document. This is the transport number, right? And this is the transport
But
number of
this
this
is
change.
mainly linked with requirement. So
Concept.
directly linked with the requirement, or is it directly linked with the task? No, I just wanted to understand how these features actually is required for this any of task or requirement.
Sorry, can you repeat?
See this feature overview, right? So we are assigning with that task, so we are tagging into some other task, right? So how that is related to that task or requirement, that is a feature overview. So what actually we should supposed to do in this feature overview?
Okay, so no,
Now
what I
new features. What actually
okay.
it does for the any whether it is linked with something any requirement, or is that something like linked with that any task? So if that is a task or if that is a requirement which is linked this new feature, that what is the functionality, what actually it does in the project.
Yeah. So like if I ask you, what does change document does in a project in Solution Manager?
Change document, it has a transport request with a development assignee
I'm saying
who is a tester.
correct. So similarly, so those are optional. Like a change document, you can also attach to a test case as well. Either or no. I mean, you can do it, you cannot do it. Similarly, same feature. If let's suppose if you consider feature as change document, it will have transports. Okay, and you can have, and it is obviously coming from some requirement, right? So you can tag it to a requirement, or your requirement will have a user story, right? So you can have both. Like you obviously, it's like a child has mother and father, right? So you can tag it to mother and father, or one hour, so it doesn't matter, right? Similarly, the feature you can tag it to, like you can assign it to a user story, right? You have a user story, so you create and you assign it to a user story. User story anyway is connected to it probably is connected to a requirement, right? So it gets that relation directly from here there itself. Or you can go there also and assign that this feature will come to that. I think probably when we do it the end to end, then you will come to know. Probably it will become more
Correct.
clear once. Now
Yes,
it is
you're
more,
right.
so that then it will show you a more better picture how it is interconnected with each of the pieces.
Correct. Yeah.
So, but to sum it up in some, it is like very similar to how we have charm or change document in solution. The same functionality. This is what. it
But
is
in the
supposed to do.
features, this particular option, a transport itself, it will get created once a requirement is approved or something like that, or we need to assign this one manually.
No, I mean earlier again the assignment is, but you can create no as soon as you create the feature, you can get it created. The transport will get meant because as soon as the feature gets created, the developer team development can start with the transport, right? Once they have the transport, they can start their development. Or even earlier, what used to happen, they can start the development, capture it in a transport. Either way is fine, right? Still in solution, just both ways it works, right? Either from the change document, you create your transport, that transport is shared with the transfer development team, and they keep adding their objects into that development, into the transport. Or the development team is working, they are using one transport. When the time comes, they attach that transport to that particular change document. Right. Similarly, here also, you can do either ways. You can create it. Probably here it won't allow because we don't have systems connected to it, which where it can create what you can like.
Usually that SAP system, it will be connected here, right? So now once we're creating the transport request here, then it will be, we can see that on SAP.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Once the system, because systems.
Once we run the cycle, then we will get more clear on that.
Yeah. Once we run the cycle, it will get more clear.